You know, I'm starting to think that I live in one of the most unbelievably weird places on the planet. Now, you might disagree, but I'll tell you why I've come to that conclusion. As most of you will probably know, I live in Aberdeen, and the Granite City, or as is more commonly heard this time of year when you arrive in the city centre bus station, which is more or less right next to the docks. I'm pretty sure people think that Aberdeen is called fuck me, look at the size of the seagulls, because that's usually the first thing somebody's going to say, and I'm not kidding. I'm pretty sure that Steven Spielberg got the inspiration for the velociraptors in Jurassic Park from these bastards. One or two of them sitting staring at you is, bad enough, but when you're sitting quite happily having your lunch or whatever, floats your boat, you get this feeling you're being watched, and slowly you look up, and there they are, working towards you in a pincer movement towards you and your lunch. And you begin to feel a kind of sense of dread as you're trying to avoid eye contact with any of them, because I'll guarantee you the second that you do, one of the buggers is going to descend on you, sending a signal to the others to join in. Jesus, I'm not kidding. The military could learn a thing about deployment from these buggers. And reminds me, actually, a few years ago, I went to the university summer school, and on one particularly unusually, I might add, glorious day, I was sitting on the walls surrounding the big grassy area near, King's Chapel, and enjoying my lunch. One of these big stuffed rolls is absolutely chock full of chicken and everything else. The very idea sets you drooling. So woe betide any bugger that comes between you and your sandwich. And I was sitting there quite happy, minding my own business, when it happened. I heard this weird noise behind me, and then felt a brushing at the back of my neck, and I thought for a second, oh, I've pulled! But no. I looked round, only to find this satanic looking seagull stick its head round my shoulder and nick off with half my roll. And I was like, you bastard, I was enjoying that. But then I realised that he'd just made off with what was probably a distant cousin, and I shouted, you fucking cannibal. But I was too stubborn to toss it, so I ripped off the bit that dive bomber Dan had nicked, and, finished the rest of it. But that's not the strangest thing to happen in Aberdeen, no. One wet, dreary day, I was quite happily minding my own business, having a smoke in the shelter outside. Well, say shelter, it was more like a tin sheet held up by two sticks. And this police car pulls up, and I thought, police car outside student accommodation? It's a bit odd. Anyway, he rolls down the window, and he looks at me, inquisitively. And I had the whole "wasn't me, officer" speech planned. But then he proceeded to ask, the most inspired, most random question I've ever been fortunate enough to be asked. And he said, "Excuse me, you haven't happened to see two guys going by with a bin, have you?" Yeah. And I thought, God bless the Grampian police. Trying to answer that seriously without laughing was a challenge. I said, no, but I swear if I see anyone trying to recycle, I'll sort them out. And it reminds me of something else. When me and my mum and dad moved up to Aberdeenshire a good few years ago now, we moved to Ford, which is 7 miles outside the bustling metropolis that is Huntly Market Town. So of course, when you're going to move to somewhere new, you're going to look into things like, you know, health centres, crime rate, that kind of thing. Anyway, when we started looking into the crime rate, it was a bit of a shock, I have to admit. Alright, we discovered that it had apparently been hit by some kind of sudden crime wave. And believe it or not, in this day and age, you think you are safe. That is, until someone abandons a caravan. This was a great crime spree at the time of Huntly. Oh yes, I'm not joking. So of course after this we had to reconsider, but with slight trepidation, bulletproof vest, cannons, AK-47, we considered ourselves safe enough to move to Huntly.